The Space God Memoirs. Season 3, Episode 11. I sat beside Zirathra in the lone room of her 8-sided fighter craft, my heart racing as I tried my best to get comfortable in the co-pilot's chair. The past half hour had been a total rush, starting with that weird meeting with Suvar, then getting back home to find Zirathra waiting for me. We barely had time for pleasantries or reunions, and instead she had practically coerced me across the facility to this hangar, where we had promptly boarded her starship. The central hangar was vast, a cavernous chamber that extended for miles, the size of a small city. I looked out from the cockpit of Zirathra's blue octahedron ship, over a veritable forest of vessels, their polyhedral hulls shining with metallic luster, and near every color imaginable, all modeled on the perfect forms of abstract geometry. There was even one enormous 12-sided capital ship housed here, towering over the others in reflective gold. Altogether, 13,457 starships were docked in this bay, which my monadic connection displayed for me to see. "This place is not safe for open discussion," said Zirathra, her almond-shaped purple eyes scanning over the hangar before us. "We must depart." There were various Nayar present, and even more Nentael, mostly going to or from their ships. Nobody gave us a second glance, but I got what she was saying. Kucingkecil hadn't been safe for a while. I peeked over at Zirathra. She looked much the same as I had last seen her. Her sky-blue flesh and head of aquamarine-colored hair that felt like a waterfall down the sides of her face. The only noticeable difference was her face markings, most of them gone and replaced by a simple spiral at her forehead. Today, Zia wore a white one-piece outfit with golden sequins, a high collar held up by a matching gold chain across her neck. The girl had a new look every time I saw her. I was pretty sure it was holograms. But yeah, she pulled it off well. Without another word, Zirathra pressed her palms into the activation panels on her armrests and let out a breath. The cockpit lit up in yellow, then orange, then blue, as Zirathra started the vessel. It whirred around me, a vibration upon my skin. Then she lifted off, silently, from the metal floor of the hangar, the ship pushing towards the gaping entry above and the stars. "Exit clearance granted," said a thought broadcast into our minds from Kucingkecil itself, after it had scanned her ID. A hole opened in the docking bay shield, and we coasted through. For moments we hovered there, in the zero-atmosphere skies of the planetoid, above its crater-scarred surface, the void of space before us. The ship's lighting shifted to a tangerine hue, as Zirathra took us into interplanetary mode. I expected us to zoom forward, but we just remained there, afloat in the high skies. Z clenched her jaw and narrowed her eyes. "Tetrahedron drones releasing," said the ship's mind. 3 of the small four-siders appeared outside, emerging from our vessel. "This is most unusual," stated Zirathra, shaking her head. The little bronze pyramids hovered there, in front of us, their centers beginning to glow. They were preparing to fire. I looked at Z, who had closed her eyes. As they each simultaneously fired blasts in our direction, our ship turned and then spun in place as it dodged all 3 shots. There was a jolt. One of the Tetras rammed directly into the Octa, shattering into metallic flakes as it collided with the hull. "Shields damaged by 10%, came the message. We coasted forward at last. In the periphery of my own mind, I could sense Zirathra linked with the Octa on a slightly deeper level, mentally wrestling with whatever force was trying to scrag with us. We continued to move forward. The 2 remaining Tetra drones continued to follow, trailing just behind us. In the back vision camera, I could see their centers alighting once more. Kucingkecil was getting smaller, a little rocky ball in the distance and shrinking. We began to accelerate again, a bead of sweat trickling down Zirathra's temples. her eyes still closed. Then we suddenly stopped in place. Zirathra opened her eyes. The drone's lights went dark. Seconds later, the four-siders drifted back into openings that formed on the Octa's side. "That incident is over," stated Zirathra, sighing. "No more will occur, at least until we arrive back at Kucingkecil." "What just happened there?" I asked. "It was similar to what you experienced within the facility. Someone was able to briefly enter the ship's mind and embed it with a hostile command." "Yeah, like those crazed holograms, or the archway attacking me." "Yes. I believe our enemies are on the planetoid still. We have just exited the range of whatever ability they were using. Anyway, we should continue on. I am still not certain that we are out of their telepathic listening range." In time we stopped, floating within the void between worlds. Not a structure or a vessel in sight. Kucingkecil, an hour away, vanished into the black of distant space. It was just us, adrift amid the ethers. The only sound, the gentle hum of her ship's engine. We floated within the cold of space, the background dominated by a view of an immense nebula that evoked a pair of stylized wings, painted in yellow gold, amber, and blue. I could hear her inhaling a soft breath, her out-breath flowing slowly out, her fresh, flowery aroma in my nostrils. My back was tight as I sat in the co-pilot's chair. We hadn't spoken since the drone incident. I wanted to bend over and kiss her, to feel her soft skin on mine, to join in an embrace. Those moments, months before, were still in my mind. Our first kiss in the heat of battle, our minds and spirits joined in a combat meditation, the fury of the moment giving way to passion. Then later, just before I'd snuck off on my stealth mission against the Veer, where Z had transferred her Atra secretly to me, I wondered if those had just been anomalies, or if there was something more there, if there wasn't a part of this Nayar existence a bit less lonely than my time on Kucingkecil. But this wasn't the moment for it. The energy wasn't right. I could feel it from her, and from me. So with tension still bubbling inside, I remained firmly in my seat. "This is a private enough locale," she finally spoke, her airy voice soft but measured. "We are of sufficient distance from Kucingkecil to avoid any telepathic prying." Woo! Finally. I rolled my shoulders and turned sideways to fully face her. "So, how've things been, Z?" "With myself, well enough. My duties are mainly administrative in nature, though they place me in a good position to observe Sevaharthas closely. Thus far, I have little updates on that front." "What about Aruvis? Is it all doing fine without me?" "Keph, I understand that you wish to play a larger role in Aruvis' restoration." "It was my home before I passed those Scraggin trials and joined you folks." "Indeed, and you were our sole ascendant, playing an integral role in the planet's liberation. Yet I'm out here doing the sneaky work while Bekibra's running the place." Zirathra opened her small mouth, about to speak. "And I know why. It's politics, plain and simple. I ain't exactly golden with Sevaharthas in the council." "Yes. There had to be someone to blame for the unconventional way Aruvis was liberated. You were the one who snuck aboard the Veer's satellite and exposed their illegal plans. Officially, you acted alone in that, and thus the Harmonium remains blameless." "Are you suddenly okay with that?" "No, but there is little I can do about it at the moment. For now, Bakibra is simply a more politically convenient representative for Aruvis than you." "Yeah, I get it." I gave a long shrug. "It's a scragged situation. Not even sure I'd be for all that pretending to be a god bit either." "Yet you do deserve an update. Matters are progressing upon Aruvis. The Veer have been driven from the world, and only a few remain of their followers. Our agents have secured the centers of civilization and are in the process of transitioning religious beliefs and deprogramming the population. Terraforming operations are scheduled to begin shortly." "Yep, saw a lot of that in my link with Bakibra. Looks like she's playing a pretty big part in Aruvis' recovery. Now she's a legit goddess." Zirathra nodded her head, brow raised. "Interesting. You still retain a link with Bakibra?" "Yep, been having regular visions from her POV. That weird?" "It is unusual, yes, even if not unprecedented. You two did share the same body-mind complex for some time, though extended connections at a distance are normally reserved for stronger soul bonds." "Huh, that's something I should be worried about?" "It is not. Likely it is all incidental and will fade in time. And She looked sideways, then at the space above my head. It shows that you are ready to receive a certain lesson, Keph. Ooh, another lesson from the mighty and wise Zirathra. Quite the treat. I grinned at her. She nodded back at me and did not frown, though I had never seen Zirathra grin. Yes, I had intended to transmit another teaching to you after your assignment at Kucingkecil, though given the circumstances it should be done sooner. I believe there is an appropriate world within flight range. Zirathra looked out over the great winged nebula through the cockpit's view window, either scanning for said world or just admiring its beauty. Back to our current situation on Kucingkecil, she continued, turning to face me again. You contacted me for a reason made quite urgent by what we just saw with the drones. You found some sort of object related to Tabalnak's demise? Yep. Figured I'm trying to be secretive here and didn't want any of the locals seeing what I found. Apparently I don't have the right rank to access its monadic data. By your description, I am intrigued. Bring out the object. I took out the egg-shaped crystal from the satchel I had been keeping it in. Zirathra eyed it for a second, ran her hand in the air over it, then took it in two hands and brought it close to her face. She finally lowered her hands and placed the crystal between her knees. This is soul-trapping technology, she finally said. A weapon capable of entrapping the consciousness of any person discorporated by it. Oh, that's scragged. Such devices are outlawed per galactic treaty, though we suspect some are still in existence, such as this one. They are exceedingly rare now, most in the hands of intelligence operatives from both factions. In the early days of the Nayar-Vaer conflict, they were employed frequently, before their banning. I eyed the thing on her lap. Should we even have it out like this? It will not activate by mere contact. The device would have been initially fired as a projectile, growing from the target's body as it entrapped their essence. It employs the same Atra technology that controls farm world incarnation cycles. So basically this is what killed Tabalnak, what's preventing him from returning to his clone. You found his body, yes? The crystal was growing out of his heart, blood everywhere. That is until the nanites dissolved it. It caused him to become discorporated, yes, and likely it is the cause of his not returning. So he's in there? If what you observed is correct, probably. I cannot tell at a glance if his spirit is within. That would take some private and careful study. To do so would require a journey within, locate his spirit and free it. In the process, I would risk getting trapped myself. We can't just smash it? That would be devastating, both to Tabalnak and anyone in the vicinity. Oh. But I will do it. Not destroy the crystal, but delve within and possibly free him. Tabalnak would do the same for me. And I suppose once he's out of there, we could just talk to him and find out what's been going on. Yes, if this is not another layer of deception. Wow, you think this could be more tricks designed to divert us from the truth? I raised an eyebrow. Z nodded. It is possible. Yep, been feeling that since I joined the Nayar. Especially since getting this assignment in Kucingkecil. Nothing is what it seems in our society. Ideally, that should not be the case. Most among the Nayar are honest in their pursuits, but when there is wrongdoing among us, it tends to take a more subtle form. Been noticing that. Telepathy, holograms, all this mind-bending tech and consciousness-altering abilities. The Vaer wear their corruption like a badge. They are openly vile, decadent, perverse. Their entire culture encourages cutthroat behavior and competition. Ours is the opposite. Virtue systems and ethical codes designed to curtail deviancy and encourage right behavior. So our bad guys are forced to be more subtle, operate under the surface. I got it. You have been stationed here for several standard months now, and have watched the situation here escalate. What is your assessment? I nodded, then told her about what I'd learned. The explosion, the mysterious sigils, about Suvar, Ninda, their connection to Tabalnak, and the off-stream fund records I had discovered in Overseer Dryafar's office. Interesting, is what she said, glancing my way with her big purple eyes. That's all you gotta say? That is what your information warrants. So, you're familiar with this off-stream thing. I am aware of its existence, but on its own it does not concern me, at this moment. You don't think it's what we're looking for? The missing Atra? No, the off-stream is classified. Its destinations and purposes are unknown to the majority of us, but it is official. not our missing Atra. My main concern is this. Someone savvy in Atra tech manipulation might be able to hitch onto the off-stream and use its secret status to quietly siphon off their own Atric stream. The thing is, Z, I don't think it's just some greedy Nayar taking it for their own use. There's more to this. Yes, many worlds worth of Atra have vanished into this siphon. Enough to do something huge and bad. For the records, it is enough to fuel a stellar-class weapon, build a sizable fleet, even jumpstart an individual's power level exponentially, or do something even more devastating. Those sigils and their weird messages. What do you make of it all? Ah, yes, she stated, turning from me a moment to gaze out at a nebula's twinkling lights. The messages do indeed hint at a deeper agenda, if they are not a misdirect. The Shattered Master, that Koronval guy. Indeed, I was not directly involved in the Annihilator's war. During that era, I was a simple initiate, still training on the Temple Worlds. My master, however, Aychuck Garadel, was among those who faced down the Annihilator himself in the final conflict. I grunted. That Yug again, I thought but didn't say. Seemed to have his finger on everything. Z's lover and teacher, responsible for giving banned tech to the people of Aruvis. And now this old conflict, all before disappearing from the universe altogether. I nodded for her to elaborate. Master Garadel was among the council who decided to shatter Koronval and disperse his essence across the galaxy, she said, and also helped to broker the uneasy truce with the remaining Veir. He told me much of those wars, but not all. To a young initiate, that time may seem long gone, but the shadow of the Annihilator still darkens the galaxy to this day. And many of the older Veir may still hold on to Koronval's ideals, I'm sure. In private, yes. The Veir leadership officially denounce his philosophy, though some among their fringes have not abandoned it. What about the Nayar? The second message suggests that this isn't just a Veir plot. She sighed, shaking her head. If the Annihilator had a quest, it was to destroy our connection to the monad. He believed that true freedom lay in returning the galaxy to a more natural state, even if it meant plunging society into primal savagery. Few among the Nayar would believe such madness. But, yes, you are right to question. We are in unknown territory here. Ugh, so what do we do? You keep investigating. Speak to your new associates. Inform them of our discoveries, and see who reacts. Cooperate, but trust nobody within the planetoid. At this point, it is clear that whoever our enemy is, they know of your existence. We should bait them with information, make it seem like we are onto them, and then wait as they are compelled into action. Meanwhile, I will remain in-system, but off-world, delving into the crystal. I nodded in acknowledgement as we coasted through the black of space. The flat plain of Bilbaz stretched in every direction. Minutes ago, we'd stepped out onto the surface of a small gray world, located at the edge of the Brol 88 system. It was near dead silent, not a single life form visible on the land or the looming ochre cloudscape above. Only an occasional shifting rumble could be heard in the distance, or from somewhere below. I glanced out over the plain, devoid of life forms or even rubble, the only features being the frequent spheres that littered the area, perfectly round and polished, ranging in size from tiny pebbles to house-sized masses. The ground was solid beneath my feet as I walked with Zirathra across the ball-covered flatland. Behind us, the octahedron vessel was parked beside a large white sphere, its blue in contrast to the stark environment around it. This was apparently the perfect site for my next lesson in the Nayar ways. I wondered what topic would fit a place like this. What were these endless spheres? Some bizarre natural formations, or creations of long-vanished artists? It felt uneasy walking past them, like I was utterly out of place here, being watched. Sometimes the planet would let out an odd groan, or a wind would whistle its alien tune as it twisted around the sea of spheres. This place was weird. Even its Atra was weird. When I closed my eyes and focused, I could see it concentrated in those spheres. In some, It was a faint pulse indeed, barely there, but in others it was vibrantly throbbing within, as if they were breathing. Wow. In the monad, I brought up a bit of info on them. The Bepenvali, silicone-based life form with 5 distinct life stages extending for several thousand standard years, persisting off of calcium and fluorite deposits, capable of abstract thoughts but not individuation, rated as poor in atra production potential due to insufficient inner conflict. Yes, life is everywhere, said Zirathra as we walked along. Not all of it resembles our own, but it is living all the same, with an awareness of its own. The Bepenvali are receptive, passive and yet stable, thus the perfect place for your lesson. Before I could respond, there was a slight change in the landscape as we walked between 2 of the bigger balls and arrived at the edge of a circular depression in the ground, like a totally symmetrical crater. I could hear a steady rolling sound from below. In moments, my eyes caught sight of 3 smaller Bepenvali balls, 2 white and 1 pitch black, rolling along the ridges of the pit. This is the second of their life cycle stages, the only one where they're generally motive. Cute, I commented. And there was something vaguely adorable about those little balls rolling themselves around their pit. Come, sit, said Zirathra, perching herself at the lip of the round crater. I sat down beside her, watching as the little ball things rolled back and forth in orbits around the pit, occasionally shimmying up or down, only to continue their rotation, sometimes switching directions. Per your training schedule, you've recently been taught about the virtue of detachment and its meditation, Zirathra said. I nodded. As you may have already deduced, we are not our physical bodies. At best, these bodies are merely a part of us, or akin to a vehicle we ride in. In the past, you have mind-linked with me. You have seen things from my perspective, riding as a passenger in my mind. As well, you have had others do the same for you. You have connected with starships, and you have seen from the eyes of your past incarnations. This is the process we use to control our ship's drones, entering them in battle as if they were our own bodies. It is how the higher-ranking Nayar can seem to have multiple bodies simultaneously, or how Archon Lumavari could inhabit an entire planetoid. Again, I nodded. I had seen enough that being skeptical at this point would be utterly silly. Zirathra continued. Today, I will show you how to become fully detached from your own body, from your identity and thoughts, and how to extend your consciousness to others. Kino, I said. Close your eyes. Begin focusing on your breath. I did so, still hearing the constant rolling of the living balls below. Now bring up the detachment meditation you were taught. The monad sent a geometry into my mind, a simple trigger that contained the entirety of the detachment meditation. Soon the poet-philosopher Cavalli's words were resounding in my head. In your mind are notions, like waves in an ocean. Watch them float by, but stick to your devotion. My senses began to recede, the sound of the rolling balls growing distant, but still present. My thoughts sunk away. Any worries about the situation back in Hundexel, on Aruvis or otherwise, all dissolved into the infinite sea of the meditation's mindscape. Soon my body was numb, its presence barely discernible. All through my being there was just a tingle, a subtle vibration that permeated everything. In time, I wasn't even aware of my breath. Good, said Zirathra, her voice now a disembodied thought. Now, imagine a rope. Your hands upon it. It is taut, leading out from your body to the universe beyond. Pull upon it. Pull yourself forward, feeling every strand, every coil. I began to do so, and in my mind it was all real. Keep going. A feeling of ever-increasing lightness as I moved forward on that visualized rope. A sense of freedom, but also of anticipation. Then a click. All sense of being a body vanished, but I was aware of everything around me. The hard ground of Bilbaz, the crater below, the tiny Bepenvali rolling in their constant cycles, even Zirathra's and my own bodies sitting there on the lip of the crater, just behind me. I didn't see any of it, but rather it all existed as a series of thought forms, ideas of place and physicality without its actual expression. Now reach out to the Bepin Valley, approach them, join with them. My psyche floated towards theirs, feeling the contour of the crater as I mentally slid down it, the cold and smooth surface of their spheroid figures. More so was their essence, their minds alive with countless abstract thoughts, busying themselves with musings on existence, with mathematical equations describing no reality I'd ever seen, with imaginary numbers and imaginary concepts and entire worlds of theory. For beings that had such a seemingly small and limited existence, they were remarkably deep. As for my presence, the Bepin Valley cared nothing about me. I reached out and they barely registered it, continuing their manic mental gymnastics as their physical bodies rolled ever onward. I reached the black one, sensing its individuated essence, its awareness of its own environment limited to feel, to a sense of the ground, and the air, and the chemicals nearby. A kind of tremor sense. It had no name, no gender or sex, and yet its finely tuned silicone brain was far more efficient than my own. I touched it, and my spirit poured into it. I was that black ball, feeling the hard ground under my curve, sensing everything it sensed, thinking every abstract notion it thought. I might have gotten lost in those thoughts, but most were so alien, so incomprehensible, that I could make very little of them. Instead, I focused on the moment, and the feel of it. I spun in one direction and then another, up and down the slope of the crater, my new body responding as readily as Keph's did, albeit with a different set of reactions and sensations. I chose to stop its motion, letting my ball form roll sideways and fall to the bottom of the circular pit, where it remained still, the constant thought patterns in the background also growing more subdued. I resumed its rolling, and it happily returned to its rich inner world. Now return. I heard a click. The snapping of Zirathra's fingers, felt acutely by the orb's senses. Immediately I was sucked back, and in seconds I was gasping for air, again using Keph's lungs. I opened my eyes to the same scene of the baby Bepin Valley in their repetitive orbits. Zirathra seated beside me and giving me a tap on the shoulder. Wow. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Space God Memoirs. Space God is written, performed, and produced by A.M. Arctos. Original musical score by Alpha Colors. Various sound effects created by Industrial Strength Records Incorporated. Please support this podcast by following, rating, and sharing on your favorite social media site. For further info on Space God, its creator, and various other opinions, musings, and thoughts, go to www.spacegodmemoirs.com or follow me on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. If you enjoyed the Space God Memoirs, please consider supporting us by becoming a patron. Check out the Patreon link in our description to learn more.